the board that this is, my intent is to proceed on this and the Mahoning Road that we'll be discussing next under the auspices of the LWRP phase one and pursuing grant money for that with from the state, just as we did with one point project that we are just currently underway. And so this is just the beginning of the long process. We have to, it'll be a little bit different this time because the pond plant is an emergency situation. We're out of sequence, but the Department of State accommodated us. So we move forward with it. This one we'll do, plan to in sequence, so it's sense. And but it will be a time-consuming process with the Department of State and the LWRP and the grant they will get to grant writer involved. So this is just step one, and we need step one before we get step two. So, Mr. Cadiello, you're on.
Good evening, everyone. I believe I know everyone or met everyone once before. Just to get back, my name is Roy Upall from the Rayner Group. We are civil engineers and landscapers, and we do some work right now for the village over at the windmill, kind of more construction administration of anything, but in this instance, my services would be more aligned with design, permitting, and land surveying. Um, Unfortunately, I don't have the board on the latest, but maybe I'll grab it there. You can. Well, so what I have here is an aerial of the exchange place area with the vicinity of the neighborhood with from, I think this is from October of 24. So we're talking roughly 6 months ago. Quantum Bay Exchange Place. These photographs were provided to me by the village and flooding that occurs there. And in a nutshell, the issues here, the flooding that is impacted here, it's a combination of tidal water that comes in and the fact that when this area drains, it seems to sit mostly in this vicinity. The elevation, and again, we haven't been out there to survey this yet, but just based on historic information, what's available to us, you're looking at elevation somewhere around elevation 2, maybe a little bit higher in this vicinity of the roadway. Um, During this time of the year, we might see some high tide conditions where at that elevation of Quantic Bay could be as over 3.5 for that matter. Right now, we're involved and we're about to do a project for the village of Quag east of the bridge, in which the roadway there, the first 2,000 feet, breaking them up into bases. Any elevation that is not at 3.5 will bring the road up to 3.5. So just now getting the base map of what's existing out there, what I would say what a goal would be is to have the minimum road elevation of 3.5. And what that would do is when we do have those big storm events, that the likelihood that you could bring an emergency vehicle through this area would be highly likely, as opposed to now when it's at 2 and you're at 3.5 or maybe even 4, you're looking at 2 feet of water to drive through, which is really not a condition that, from an emergency response standpoint, you want to be in. Now, as far as raising the road, what dictates that obviously is the improvements that are around it, the houses that are there, and the driveways that are there. Obviously, we don't want to raise the road to the extent now we're dumping water into private property and into people's driveways. The design intent here, though, would be to use this median area, which I believe is owned. I don't know who actually owns it, but a group of people. So they had the same entity that owns here, I believe, owns this little spit that's over there also.
We've had a discussion, DPW has had discussion with maintenance issues and things like that.
So to kind of look at this just quickly to be is in this area, try to do some type restoration, where you would be raising the grade so the water doesn't spill in. And again, I'm not an environmental guy to the extent of, say, First Coastal or whatever, but you would be looking at some of their practices, which low sill bulkhead, maybe a bigger bulkhead, intertidal marsh, developing that from a tidal wetland standpoint. And then from a water quality standpoint, take the water that's in the road, dump it in here, and build some type of best management practices with drainage and filter the water before it actually spills or potentially could spill into Quantum Bay. I've given the village a proposal, and it starts in my mind with the way that we would approach this project is we go out, we do the survey, and we get all that mapping done, so we kind of know really what can be done, and then come up with a preliminary design. From that preliminary design, then we would go into the permitting process. Now, should the village choose to maybe approach the town of Southampton and use CPF funds for water quality, this could be a candidate. I know you had mentioned other improvements that you were working on with grant applications that were available, but and again, excuse my ignorance because I don't know really specifically where they at a state level or federal level for that matter. But I've been involved with projects for other villages where we have made applications to the water quality improvement program and have been successful. So that's one approach to it. And I will share with you that we did not go to the level of engineering and surveying that is in our proposal to actually make that application. What we basically did was we took something very similar to this and showed, hey, we'll bulkhead here, we'll use this for drainage, and use standard details right out of the New York State DEC design manual, and see if, and put a budget on construction and see if you're successful in getting it.
But to be, CPF is a much more user-friendly grant program, in the part of the state, but, that's.
I mean, it's an option. On the flip side of that, should you move forward with the design and start generating what I would call engineering type drawings, nothing really would preclude you from making that application. In fact, what I'm finding out is a lot of these villages, just are kind of using it as a bank of money, saying, "Hey, I got a problem over here. Let's go try to fix it." And some of the projects are accepted by the town, and some of them aren't. But I believe that one of the reasons why some of them aren't is because they are scratching their head, like, "Hey, how are we going to do that?" I mean, the back of the napkin design really might not work there, and that's where having an engineered plan kind of puts you in a better position to determine or make yourself eligible for that funding.
Yeah, I think no matter what, in the board's consideration, something needs to be done.
I mean, it's been that way since I was a kid. A lot of my customers don't houses down there. When you go from approach each one of the homeowners and you say, why don't you change the docks? Then a lot of them don't have the deeds behind them. Okay, fine, man. I'm having to bring it up as well. You know what I mean?
I'm not talking about the private, okay, I think the one little spot is right.
Well, you see, right?
Yeah.
And there's some have said that there's some type of maybe a culvert or some type of a drainage conduit in that area too that may have been impacted in construction or what have you. Again, I haven't walked in detail.
Um, the road is the village,
Yes.
okay, but for responsiveness for the
You know,
road.
I understand that, but I'm saying,
Situation.
doing something here, I don't know if people are really amenable, but, oh, get the bulkhead, do that, so the water, the people section.
But
Unless they do it.
I run this committee for help.
Right.
but I believe some, this is where the village attorney came from, in some instances, who actually owns this? And what rights do we have to improve it? You may find out we may need to get their consent, and I would suggest that we get, we may get their consent regardless.
I think no matter, not only do we have their consent, but we're being pressured to do something about it. You know, we've been.
Anthony's concerned about this.
Because that's where they're a war. You know, as of right now, you know, I'm sure the dryer season, it's green and it's, you know, whether the kids are playing soccer in there or they're playing something.
It was like, I didn't have that many years left now. Yeah, there's no, there has to be something in the middle there for some kind of change, but I don't know how close you want to do it. Definitely has to bring something in there.
Well, you would just do, Robbins, you would scout that groundwater. We've been monitoring groundwater, and again, I'll use Dune Road because that's the project that, and we've seen groundwater fluctuate anywhere from elevation 1 to elevation 2 within 48 hours. And that's likely what you see here. I mean, Quantuck Bay, the level of Quantuck Bay is dictating where groundwater is. So what I would say is, if you brought your road up, say 3.5, if you were saying, you're going to build this area down in here, or like a depression and with the base elevation at 2, you give yourself at least a foot of freeboard of capacity in here to drain this roadway. Now, this area in here, I'm guessing it's probably about an acre and a half, 2 acres. So you have the capacity in there. And I think, the approach with the residents here and the approach that we have, first and foremost, this project is so when we have an abnormal tide condition or a flooding condition, we can get an emergency vehicle down there and access the properties.
Right.
During a significant storm event, we are going to look to alleviate the ponding condition. We're not eliminating anything, we just don't have the ability to put everything in the ground.
I think the key word is mitigation, not.
Absolutely. So,
We have to take over that we be able to improve it. Depends on whether they want the owner, but if the owner, well, the owner consents to us using it, is the owner developed fashion.
We just want to be easement over, we don't have to.
I'm just worried about future maintenance or control. We would get, you would probably want an easement for whatever we put in for, of course. I mean, if they don't do it, damn it.
I
Just don't know
Yeah.
whether is that developable property? No, it's not.
and again, you bring up a good point. When you're making these grant applications and you're using, public money to improve it, are they going to say, well, how do you improve someone else's property without an instrument that is, an 8?
We're experts at that.
Maybe you get the property, but if you could do something that other people want to give something out, you be able to buy that the property, they might do it. You know what I mean? That might
And
be
put
like,
drainage easement
yeah,
over it.
something like that. I like that.
I mean, I envision the village being responsible to maintain it, and okay, let's make this. You're under normal tide conditions, say elevation of water up before, you've got grass or seaweed or debris on the bay that has drifted through here. You're gonna have to send Mr. Smith and the boys out there to clean it up. There's no question. But again, that would be part of what your responsibility. We would post plant material in there that is conducive to intertidal marsh. Um, and that's the way that we would approach. It's a filtering tool as well, with respect to taking stormwater runoff, filtering this area, and then let it percolate into the ground.
That area there, though, that you brought up a good point. Exchange Place, it floods there. So, like, if emergency services have to get down, it's not so much on the end. I mean, it is at the end, yes, but it is at Exchange Place or around there. Well, yes,
Oh,
that's
and there's a little spot.
really.
Part of our scope, our serving scope would come down here in 100 feet
Yeah.
up Cedar Lane.
Because that
And,
is.
and even the way that we handle stormwater, if you had drainage structures along here, and you basically use the hydrology of the water, had a bubble over here, where, all right, you may have the road up here at 3.5, and then a catch construction with a grade at 2.5. But the bottom line is that you have a drainage structure here that's all laying here below that. That water's gonna flow through the piping system and kind of outfall in this area.
So it sounds like we have a two-pronged problem to start.
Well, it's not only this, it's getting, actually, this area is not the greatest as we.
Right.
And for emergency services to get down there, or any,
A lot of water.
As far as, detail lane, I mean, I don't have the numbers on paper, but I would believe this road predominantly is flat nor pitches from north to south.
Hopefully I don't see the angle, but I don't see that over there, that intersection there, that four-way stop, that stop over there. Before you make the right to go down that way, I really don't see that one. I see it when you get down this way.
Yeah.
And then it was just good, and then this whole loop around there, that's my bad. I've been there giving people's cars over the house, yeah.
And even as far as, so I would say drainage, you may be doing something on this side of the road as well, because I just, just looking at these photographs, for example, this happens to be, say, this gentleman's driveway over here.
Maybe, yeah.
So,
People know, go there.
yes, part of another issue that we can look into is this water, at the elevation of ponds and bayers, that water that's spilled into the area. And now when the tide recedes, it's kind of trapped there. So if that's the case, well, I'm looking to take that water and put that in there as opposed to the river.
Other questions? I think we should.
Figure this out.
Yeah.
I know we are, I've been going there for 30 years now. I've floods in, I'm losing it. The floods have been waiting, so that water that comes off the bays, it goes up there and rolls up there when they come to the
It's the building fog, getting back to the sub project, put in these infiltrated fields along Tune Road about 20-25 years ago. And we recently did a testing over there, and in digging the testing, we grabbed, we hit these. And these things were in groundwater by a foot. Now, when they were installed, I know they weren't installed in groundwater. So as far as, the tidal conditions and what we're seeing now with tidal surge, it's higher. There's no, that's why we're building to higher elevations, et cetera, along the coast. It's just, it's an evolving issue that we need to contend.
there's also an opening on the end of the exchange place.
That's why.
At this location.
Oh, yes, I thought you were the other way on Sea Fields. I'm sorry, I can't see that far from here.
I can't hear very well.
Okay.
And you speak very quietly.
Yeah.
I gotta get close.
I think that this is.
I believe that picture is looking in that to this direction.
Corner. And then that is,
Let's see, Drew. No, that's not. It's not this house. It's on the map that's on your property.
is that owned by some homeowner?
It's completed driveway. This is the house. I know what this.
The opening
Is
in
the
the
next one.
middle is,
It's
not a-
Yeah, if you just issue those here.
So that's, have to go through, searches and determine who actually owns the property.
Yeah, I think that's a big question. I think before we, I think before we start spending money, to be honest with you, I think some type of, we need some to some homework, like who owns it, and what we do to be able to utilize that area. May it be sign and then we can't touch it because,
Right.
you know, someone is gonna be litigious with us.
You
Yeah.
know, it's central.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah, I've seen people use it and put them through. I don't know if that changes if you know, what, whoever's in state, what they choose there,
Was CPL.
reservation,
Reservation of the states.
right, but I don't know if
We
that's.
would, we would be responsible for maintaining and, it's still needs to be great law, responsible for
Right.
supervising and,
But then I guess it depends on who owns.
well, if they wanna build parking, it would have to be the village and the town doing it.
Right, but so the point is, they are two distinct pieces.
Okay,
We know they're jointly owned and I'm pretty sure they're part of the subdivision.
okay,
But I think taking on the median is a different conversation than taking on
yes,
the little other access piece, because right now that piece that's at 2 feet above sea level, where the water's coming in, that's owned by the residents of that subdivision.
There is an identity, there is a,
like,
um,
If we took over that, it would become public and that would change kind of how that piece
Yeah.
is used. So I think targeting the median is probably more desirable for those owners.
there is an entity on the town's GIS for these two. They're the same entity, but you know, there's no mailing address, there's no. Right. You know, the question is was it common land that the subdivision had and which one does?
That property.
Okay, so
Pull it off.
But I think it was just set up that because it's just the longest owner there and was like, hey, back. I think it was part of it. I think so. But it predates, so we don't have to forever. Predates the creation of the, at least.
Predates 1948.
I believe so. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
It's something we have.
I think you need to tell that guy his law improvements would be at grade or below, so we're not blocking his view by any means.
Looks like a long.
Well, I think we have to do some homework first. Yeah. Start moving ahead. Any other questions from the board? No. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a great evening. Next thing is Dune Road and Long Hill have yet to rise. Wow. With that he arrives, we'll listen to him. Who is here? Who's around here?
If I can go.
So you don't have to torture yourself. Well, she has a special exception application in front of us for music and things in the exterior of the theater, which should still be opening. Congratulations. Thanks for all the work. That's great. The and I would have is, we do have food establishment associated with, so we will be having most likely beverages and food outside with the music, I assume.
But mainly beverages. I mean, the food is upstairs. Actually, to have a liquor license, you need to serve small bars, right? So they're going to be served maybe in the bar upstairs. So for the pastor, we're not sure if we're actually going to do food. It's mainly going to be drinks and whatever we sell in concessions.
The seating,
That's in there. We do the topic, but that's the without that.
Yes.
and the seating, I think you requested the seating.
Yes, I must have misread. I thought it was 36 code, but it's apparently, yeah.
So would you be happy with the 28? Because, that's what we would like to be consistent with.
Right.
Douglas and Village.
Yes, no, I must have misread. That's why we like 26. We decided it would be at rondel chairs, around a nice circle, a couple of benches for couples, and yeah, it would really make it up.
Bring your own beverages, kind of a situation to start and see how it works out. And you want live music, correct?
Yes.
There is the neighboring residential area, so and you, the menu request was 10:30, is that correct?
Right? Yes.
Yes. Those outdoor music for us has to by 11.
Right.
But that's right there on Stern Drive. So, it's just, it's the idea to have it just while people are waiting for the theater to show them to start. It is, and it's
Or
allowed.
just something to do before showing or
Right.
after showing, right? So instead of like in the summer mainly, right? Because this is only for the summer. You're done watching a movie, you want to talk a little bit in the summer. It's nice to sit outside, and it would not be a hard rock band. It would be some jazzy music or something where you just would do the same thing as you do upstairs before or after movie, but just outside in the summer and take advantage of the fact that it's lovely here, it's nice outside. Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah, the idea of having acoustic only rather than heavy amplification and loud.
Yeah, not heavy amplification, but we would like some vocals, like a Dane singing, a jazz Dane.
So vocal amplification and then not loud electric guitars and using the drum set. The proper.
Yes, 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 yes. No, no, no. I mean, of course, we know about the neighbors next door. We do it respectfully. We want to entertain our patrons, but try to make it as sophisticated and elegant as we can, and not
So
like
I think they primarily that way you have a little option.
yeah, yes.
30 on the room. Then is it 3 days a week? I forget. I don't know.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, depending on
Yeah.
yes,
Like 2
yes,
the maximum.
yes. For the outdoor music,
Yeah.
seating to stay then, huh? Yes.
Yes.
People look for things.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. We have to, this is a special exception. So
Right.
the next step is to advertise a public hearing at our next meeting, May 1st. So we'll advertise public hearing. Your time to get that figured. Okay. May 1st, and then we'll have the public hearing at our June meeting. And all things going well, we can approve it right away in June.
Okay.
Okay.
When is the hearing in June?
It would be the first Thursday in June.
First Thursday in June. Okay. Yeah. Right. Yes.
Sound good?
Looking forward to seeing you all on the 24th and the 25th. Thank you. Next. So the 24th is a sneak peek behind the curtains from 6 to 11. People hopefully get a staggered to make and see it. It's more about having a drink, seeing what we did. I'm not going to show a movie apart from the trailers, but it's about coming up and down and seeing what we did. And the 25th we have the official ribbon cutting and then first show.
We have a heartburn about the chair being out there for the special opening next week.
Special opening, I think we make accommodations for people that are having grand openings and ribbon cuttings. That's the kind of issue I don't.
Yeah, just hang it and live.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have another presenter who just walked in, so we want to pick him next. Ed, so I met, he's been here several times before, giving presentations, asked several, we've asked several questions, he's answered them. Mr. Angel has had a chance to review the contract, he has found it to be.
There's and at the end of it, it's very technical. And there's a contract that uses, I've seen that, right, but I believe Village of Southampton. And it imposes, it's with a calculating energy, which I didn't even know existed. But like to say, lawyer, I can't agree with it. I mean, it's a very technical area that deals with obligations both by Calpine and on the village in this agreement in an area of energy acquisition that I know this much about.
This, the town has, they signed their contract
I understand that, but what you have to do is convince the board what Town of Hempstead did, because we did, Nassau, the entire Nassau County today. So you have like, Melrose there, they are done, East Hampton, they go, that one was signing on Tuesday, like the other counties on oil, and we're all doing this. And, I just want this, for your review, this is the sign from Hempstead, and I spoke to the, purchasing department, and I'm such asked him if you wanted to talk to him. He said, Calpine, I was told they're in San Diego, and Calpine is the third largest energy company in the United States. They're about a $50 billion company. They're massive. And when I was here last week, to explain that Calpine, the three big electricity companies have all are just sort of taking interest in what's going on in oil, but they can't do it because they don't have generation assets on the oil. Calpine does. Calpine has Stony three plants in Bethpage. Brother is they plant there. JFK Airport, they do the entire electricity for JFK Airport. The JFK Airport is completely off the grid. The other energy companies, they just don't deal with all. Long Island is called Zone A in New York. They just it's just off the grid. They don't do it because Calpine has generation assets on land. They can import power and they can export power. So they can import retail power and they are generating it on the wholesale, and they're exporting it to the grid, of which PSE&G is buying their wholesale power. So you're already buying power already. This is going to be on the retail side. Because of what's going on politically right now, the market seems to be all lower and total sort of placements on the right now. Energy markets have pulled up. On the front, like we're panicking, so there's a buying mode going on. But long term, it's definitely by holding out here. When I started here, and I have a proposal here, PSE&G for the last 5 years, you've been paying an average of around 11.4. I think in my first proposal, I put in 11.2, but this was a brutal winter. So January, February, we were in the 13 cent range. So your average price has now gone up. 11 is close to 11.4. I went to the proposal first, I was at 10. And then last week I redid it, we're at like 9.8. Down to Hempstead, I did last week, I got them at 9.6. And then this morning, it's just a much lower profile that the county at 9. And just a comparison of what it is, we're saving the village about 10 to 15% on your energy. Currently, right now, you are 100% exposed to the market. And we're not saying to lock in all of it, we're saying go 50%. At least 50%, going forward into 2026 or 27 or 28, at least half of the load is on a fixed product instead of 100% exposed to the market. And clearly, we're coming here because we have a discount. You're paying 11.4. I put it into the nines. When I was going back to town of Hempstead, their load profile is 150 million kWh of power. It's a massive load. Town of Hempstead, the Survey area, they're 7 kWh of power. Babylon is 10.5 million. West End, you guys are just you're under a million. You're about 900,000. So Nassau County, there are $14 million in savings. Town of Hempstead with 5. Here, you're going to get a savings of about 7. So that's just where I'm projecting. I I get worried when banks and energy companies, energy is going up, electricity, natural gas, and crude oil right now are going down just because we just have an excess supply out there right now. But demand for electricity, as you read in the newspaper, AI is gobbling up everything. And so this is where we think the energy demand is going to be for the next 3 to 5 years. And this is where the generation that we have looks. We're not going to be able to fill that gap. So it's going to become a supply and demand issue. So what we're saying is here, don't go 100%, go 50%, during the summer months, or excuse me, in like the shoulder months, like right now. And then as you go into the summer months, where we always know energy goes up, and we're going to lock in like 65%. September, October, November, come back down to 50%. And then the winter months, December, January, February, we're going to lock in at 80%. Just to get you guys more on a budget. I mean, what we're doing here is, at least we are saving money. That's the first thing you should be, taking a look at this. But the main thing is also you're forming a budget. And that's where I know like the treasurer and everybody else, everyone else should figure yourself including the mayor and see, like instead of sort of guessing what 26 to 27 is, go 5, 10%, whatever it might be. These will be actual numbers that you can bank and say, well, this is what we're going to be spending. This is what the number is, and you can inform your other budgets around now that you know that. Um, the contract, yes, it is complex. I mean, it's a lot of other clearance like that, but they were they're a $50 million company, and their lawyers are I believe I think they rent these into in some complex. But other townships on Loyal are doing this, and in the state, I see the side here. It's NICOM. I'm part of NICOM. So I between AOT and NICOM we created NIMA, the New York National Energy Program, which I run. So we have Albany, White Plains Gas. We have parts of Buffalo. We represent 1,000 supervisors and mayors together. Nationally, we cover over 5,000 communities. Like what we're doing here is we're not reinventing the wheel. We're not a trailblazer. That this is being done all throughout the country, on the private sector and in the public sector. Um,
Just for legal reassurance, I think what we're trying to come to now is we're to authorize a reassign an agreement or not. First of all, this is a 2-year contract.
I know. I mean, it's really yeah, you can do this for 12. When we were talking, I said, if you do this for 12 months, you're coming back here in 6 months, you have to renegotiate. Traditionally, it's 24. Town of Henson went 60 because of right now, because of where the markets are going, people are in a buying phase. So on the prop month and the spot market is very high. But the further you go out right now, it's very low. So they saw that as out in 60 months, where the prop month was at 10 something, they saw it at 9.96, 9.4, and took advantage of that, the long term price. And that goes for all 5 groups. So they'll be benefiting about over 20% savings on their energy.
In these scenarios, are we going to lose money?
I mean, you're buying a commodity, so is the possibility of that happening? Right now, I would say there's a 5 to 10% risk that you could do that. I mean, I do get, I can't advise you, I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm not saying you should.
Right.
What I understood is you're entering into a contract to do some portion of your energy at a fixed price for a fixed period of time. And hopefully that's less than you pay to PSC. You may not. It theoretically could be more if prices fluctuate down. So you're entering into a contract with Calvin, which has all sorts of boilerplate that I don't understand in this context. But that's the basic idea. So you're buying it for X number of dollars over a period of time, and I don't even know what KWs and all that sort of thing. Catering the measurement of electricity. So if you fill up, if it goes down, 20 gallons is the continuation. Right. If it goes down substantially, you've made a bad. If it goes up substantially, you made a terrific deal. Right. Okay, so you have to do this as going into a mortgage. You're going to go borrow money. You're going to buy. You want to get it at 3%. You want to get it at 7%. I'm taking 3%. I mean, if you drive a vehicle, if you drive an automobile of some sort, what are the rates? Rates. The utility is don't think like you're not getting your power from the utility. Utility delivers
transportation district is pizza. And then the supply is coming from, it's on a floating index.
So how does pizza get that supply? How do we get our supply here?
Right now, pizza buys 100% of their power they call the New York ISO, Independent, that's the grid. So they pick it up and they deliver it to marijuana.
How often those prices fluctuate or what's
Oh, every second. I mean, it goes every hour. It's 24/7. I mean, the price of power is, there's a snowstorm upstate or wherever it might be, and power's gonna be there. I mean, who sets it? Who makes the price? I mean, the grid. There's basically the big grids around the United States, or it's called NEI, so that's the New England side. That's all Maine, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and then the mid states, Illinois, Michigan, and stuff like that. That's called MISO. PTAC is the largest one, which is Pennsylvania, Jersey, Maryland, Illinois, and Ohio. That's the biggest. And then you have out of Texas, California is Casio. But New York has its own grid, and that's basically the exchange. And who's buying into the exchanges? Utility groups, energy companies. They're grabbing future contracts basically, and electricity is something you really you can a little bit, but it's almost impossible to store it. So we're going to nuclear power plants, we're going to natural gas generation, and we're saying whatever goes out of the plants next year, we're gonna grab it. It's a financial decision.
No, like if there's a market for commodities, a whole bunch of people are bidding. But
Which exchange? I mean, the nice ones are all exchange,
how does that happen on a minute like?
and then you have the Chicago Board of Trade is trading electricity and natural gas. The New York Mercantile Exchange is buying electricity and natural gas. You go on any of the exchanges and buy, it's called a strip account.
So when PSG buys stuff, they pass
The it's passed on to the one where PSG it's illegal in the state of New York. New York is a deregulated state, so it's a 100% pass through to the customer. Yeah, I mean, if you have your transportation and distribution for PSG, they have to be, it's their wires. You have no choice. You have to use their equipment. But the actual supply of electricity, that's just a pass through. So that's why you see every single month it changes. There's a high and there's a low. They start taking a median, and that becomes your price. And then there's the different classifications of prepayments. So large manufacturer, residential, or commercial industrial.
if we went, if the village went with you, we'd still pay the transportation.
Correct.
And the distribution. Correct. We just wouldn't pay for the power. We'd pay that to town.
Correct.
And we know what the budget is. That would be something. I guess my question is just, what is that? What is that? So how does your number of 24 months be the normal number that we're paying?
My number's not going to change. I'm experienced.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm saying we're subject to the market. What is that market price? That could go lower, okay, but what has it been over the last
Year. That's fine. I mean, everything that I do here is I have everything here. So you can, I really do encourage you to go onto the Lightning website. I mean, this is all of their data. So if you look here, it's 21, 22, 23, 24. So I didn't add in March, which is 13, but this is 11. I'm now at 11.4. See how it fluctuates every month. And I beat 99% almost every single month. I'm coming in today and what I did today was 9.4, but that was an obscene, human load. And it's like anything, it's buying Costco, buying big, and you get this. So Nassau County being closer to some of the transportation, they get a little bit of a discount. But I can follow up confidence and say, you can piggyback off of down in Hempstead. They might give you a little bit of a deal. Calhoun goes, they're whale hunters. They only, I mean, I've been working with them for about 20 years, and I will not on the call unless with 5 million valuation above. But when we got the night contract, Peter Green, so you probably know, and Barbara B. Epps, like, they brought us in the room and said, you will make the big ones, and you will have small ones. We told them, we're trying to expand on the pond, and so, the villages and the small, stuff like the hamlets and stuff like that, you got it. And because they have generation assets here, they wanted to grow their pond. They said, we'll do that. We'll do that. And, they've already reaped the benefits of by getting the very, 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 big loads of capacity. And subcommittee is also Brookhaven, our Pentagon is already reviewed this, and he most likely going to come forward. I was with him yesterday, a solar deal with him. But he knows all about this, and we do all of their, I do all Brookhaven's natural gas, and natural gas and electricity are they're both identical. When they're both combined, they both sort of go, and they're they went 100% no gas, and they've done very well on that. And now they want to move to electricity. Um, I'm trying to think how else I can sell to you guys. Well, yeah, so I say it just because of like the load. It's not a big load. So I'm like, when I was talking to the mayor, my I think it's better now. My proposal was about a month old, and it was about 7 grand. I might get about 8 grand for you guys. It's knocking off a couple $100, $1,000 a month maybe. Um,
Today, I just signed, I think it's two of us signed a voucher for PSE&G for $6,000 for the year. So if you save, 1 month's worth.
yeah, at the end of the day, if you look at the scope of it, you say you're getting a month free. It's like, that's what it would probably be. The lower here is it's just not that big.
People maintain the whole wide everything else goes to PS. They still be treated it.
They may be different.
That's
I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like
Right.
PSE. The way PSE is structured, now to get even more confused, it's like it's lightly integrated, and lightly is only 70 people. It's a state property and it owns a utility, and it's 70. PSE&G is the maintenance company, and they're 35. And then the electrical union, they're about 2,500 people, and they do it. So it's actually 3 different groups that like things. And when the truck's going around, the PSEG is literally just a bumper sticker. Like they don't, those drivers and telephone people, they don't work for PSEG. They work for the International Brotherhood of Electrical whatever union. But yeah, it's like when someone knocks and hits a telephone pole and goes down or something like that, you still call PSEG. It's like they have to that's their equipment. They want electricity flowing through it. It's their lines. The telephone poles are it's a 50-50 partnership. Half is owned by PSEG and the other half is owned by Verizon. So it's both electric and telephone poles. So it could be a Verizon person, maintaining that well too.
There are. Yeah.
Just to make it
What?
to make it interesting.
Right.
We did not get down by flagging them.
Yeah. The energy does. I mean, it's like a lot of people understand their cell phone bill, but and they've been using their utility for 100 years, and it gets complex. You have to think like I find gas to be very easy because it's a physical commodity and I can store it. Where electricity is like it's once you make a contract, it's like if you don't use it, it just goes off to the wind. So and it's just like a pipeline, an electricity wire is a pipeline, where natural gas is present carrying third or second terms of electric, it's gonna carry feet of image. It's just giving you more control of your house. That's a big benefit of it. Yeah. But right now, just because of the political market that I'm in right now, I'm destroying PSEG. So if you drove forward, was sitting forward, and you're paying over $3 for gasoline, the guy comes into the booth and says, "I'll give you for 250." You would do that. It would be just because you understand gasoline, and it's the same concept with electricity. You know, you're saying, but these are not long-term contracts. I mean, 24 months is, I don't find that to be really that big of exposure. You know, for the market in the last 5 years, it hasn't touched it. It very rarely touched 9. Come back into 9. I mean, it's, you're talking COVID, you know, like the halt of manufacturing, the halt of demand caused the, you know, the big drop like that. We could go back a little bit.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions? You just gotta think about it.
If everyone has my card or anything else, please don't hesitate.
I have it, Brian, and everything. Still have all your brochures and things.
Yes, it's not like a public document, you don't have to want it. This one's signed. So, yeah, it's all safe. It's been reviewed by multiple different attorneys in different municipal governments. I wanted to call them.
I don't wanna give an opinion on something I know nothing about, but it's always a problem as a lawyer when you're asked to give an opinion and you're just guessing.
Well, the thing I think you should share, like, I mean, obviously, Mr. A is there for the advice, but also, I mean, you guys have membership tonight, all night. I mean, they're both person. I mean, you know, I Martin blank on the attorney's name. I know AOT's Jen, and, but you just call Mike and say what this program is about. They're probably focused on it and where we are in the state.
Okay. Okay. Good. Thank you.
What? Did you want this early?
It's the same as when you get it. Right.
Okay. I'll leave her hold. Remember. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. The only thing I get is sales number 1, but as we get closer to summer, my number will become worse because now that's like I'm in the shoulder month right now. So you're in a lull period right now.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Paragraph on it, you're gonna make the result from all right.
We did talk about it, yes.
Yeah.
He was like,
But
it's Wednesday, you know, it's because it's always on Thursdays here.
oh, this is tomorrow. Okay. Info analysis. I sent you a whole letter in your email. This on Phil. I don't know if you have a chance to review it. Basically, Michael, this is we have bike lanes on Dean Road, especially between two bridges. Ron gave this letter of recommendation. And basically, it comes down to the first step would be to get a survey, an updated survey. We have several records from 1933. Ron appreciates those. Okay. And 1894, the 2001. So Ron is suggesting for the use of surveyor from the did the survey of 2001 would be region 30, and they're still in existence. They're living ahead. So my intent is once again to do this school grant with the Park State as part of the WRP at Maple Range.
Was there still gonna be a walking area? Like, do a lot of people do walk and bike?
Yes.
Which not fully a monthly where you.
That's what you pay is, wrong, if you read the letter, different approaches.
You could have
Yeah.
a combination lane and biking and walking, or you
Yeah.
can split it.
Right.
It really depends on,
I mean, you can both,
it depends on what the road is doing
yeah.
and
Really
help.
between the bridges, I see a lot of people walking and riding a bike. And there doesn't look like there's that much space, but maybe there is, and I just don't realize it.
I think he's told us, states in the letter.
Yeah.
Open you would, I don't know.
Okay,
So how to use it best has yet to be determined. Um, he's thinking most, probably is that the, bike lane way would be on the north, part of the, and that would help provide the owners and all those kinds of bases, that's the one we take.
To follow these instructions, sign on their north of those.
Yes, and it's not the full length, well, I've spoken to, the men. Paying attention when they have a bike lane pathway going all the way through the wall beach is the ultimate idea, best idea, but it's, he hasn't heard repeated it, so that he hasn't with that. So, I think the first steps would be to check, engage, do a survey and have an awareness. And again, don't know any proposals to the he said it estimates it to be, I'm not sure, I think between the bridges and to Portland, he estimates to be around two, in excess of 200. But that's also worked out. Okay, so, I think maybe we could engage a surveyor and also the surveyor as a surveyor. Okay, and it's, again, a very easy process, so the verify your surveyation before they have to see. So, just to get those, okay?
just a bone.
But, finish all receptions plan, artistic conversation, but I hope you wanted to keep it on the tab anyway. I think everyone had a chance to review the plans and whether it should pay for it. Matt couldn't be here, I was hoping we could come, and we could just accessible to the DPW to handle instruction involved. Trying to sit on it to, see if the DPW, would do it, because I think they can, because they're non-structural changes. And, what we do, I think we'd like to do the plan to include it and move forward in some fashion. Rob, do you have any questions? Good?
Nope.
Good? Okay. Fire alarm code modification, and Steve Franklin will be here, a lot of people are here.
It's the,
Carolyn's, we do have a fire alarm code in our code, and it's also on the right hand. I think, Mr. Angel worked out with Mr. Henry's support. We would like to implement our existing code and change it, so the fee structure is by resolution separately instead of being the code as it is now, for both police and fire. Right now, we do get false fire alarms reported by the police on the report vehicle. The difficulty is we don't find any reports for false fire. I think that's because the school works finding them, and Steve Travis indicated he thinks the fire commission would be acceptable to have it on the reimburse them 50% of the false alarm fees. In general, so we share it, we get 50% of the with, false alarms and the fire, that's 50% of it, and everyone else money that. But that, the, implementation of the code to have that happen is just not there. So we need some kind of, change to the code to handle the repo, essentially, fire. Because the same thing that years ago, they said that they get exempt, but I looked that it's more, now. They covered by them more. Right, and it should hopefully well, reduce the. I don't know, increase the number of, I think about this right. I know, I want it to be done. Maybe what else. But if we could pursue looking into amending the false alarm code. This is to be something that people.
Everything else, there's no law. That's right. I thought you were getting into
Right. And enforcement, and apparently, Mr. President, Chairman, that not all false alarm codes are, responded to by the police. Some, only especially the summer busy season, police don't get all the alarms. The fire people go to, so there's also things that just the fire department responds to, and we just response, so we have to have some kind of mechanism with them to report false alarms to us, as well as the police department. And we bill the offending, entity, and then split false alarm fees 50/50 with the fire. So that's how local people work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially very, the Hamilton to be able to.
Yeah.
Not the schedule.
Yeah, there's that. We do have to amend it to all Sharon, we have to amend it to all around the. Right now, it's when the police go home, so there's a fire at police station, the beer out, or chief of the fire, the sheriff's area. So obviously, and then we have to look at his 50% share of, yeah, the other. So we should go, this initiatives. We'll get the draft, on the month. Yeah, we want to mean what we have.
Okay. With thank you. Then I have just had, use of village property, regarding those movies, right now, so it's our show, it's the same as last year. The problems with budgeting, judges, board.
Yep.
Folks, commissions, probably should know, same as last year. Any concerts, I noticed that they changed it to Wednesday last year, now back to that Thursdays, which is fine. That's the true.
She said Tuesday was highway.
What you talked about it, that until they would put that.
Why not?
Oh, we can suggest, but, yeah, Thursday.
I think her application said that.
Yeah.
Right.
She did just mention
She mentioned Thursday, I think, yeah, that is, yeah.
Right. Understanding like,
Well,
what's going on.
yeah, we have the other downtown Los Angeles ones that have music in the same months as the Bucklers too. I think that. Anything else on that one? No. I'll go to yoga, this is same as last year. I'd like to see. And the library of the libraries, the library speech, same as last year. Library kids on the green, same as last year, I believe. Movies, same as last year, we just had to, research. Maybe we should, maybe we can contact librarian. If we could parents, company, the kids, the movies, rather than drop this off to the usual. Sierra's 5K, Scotts Village, with their ammunition, right key. Okay. I do want you to be aware that we have probably the Knights of Columbus 5K, and now we're not one, two additional entities that we different 5K runs in the summer. So it's a mounting demand. So we'll have to. I did share with funds, and we do not have a limit on that right now, but we will slip one at a time as they want, but we do want to system side when there is a vehicle is yeah. Right. Yeah, and who the sponsors are and we want if I'm not sure his application can even appear. I think it was just an inquiry. So we also do that. Oh, last year, there's the police and putting on their like search on some sort of this mechanism. Yeah. So but what's happening? I know we're honoring some things that have been going on for years. Right. Newcomers and right. Just actually work. Right. And I do have a concern. I don't know. But there's on the news. There's a lot of runs in the summer. Becoming health hazards because runners it's extremely hot in the summer. So they're considering moving runs to different times of the year. And only plenty of runs before it heats up because so that's an issue as well.
Veteran to work earlier, May,
Yeah.
June.
Shoulders. There are some considerations in the summer. Certain privacy that because the officers and the wishes for a certain amount of time. So that's a required notification to the Coast Guard. So that's usually if I need it. One engine thing. Those you can say this for the whole process of notifying post. That's usually we will get them to raise concern at the time. Okay. The benefits having them in the summer to have them just TCOs. Why do you think which closure issue will be around this part has to do with? Yeah, that's it's just like it's like the encouraging you have one right. But they still Coast Guard still has to give out that notice around the news. Yeah. So I think the case for the full sheriff department is still to get to the sanitization, but it's Lucci great on, same as last year, and as usual, he has turned everything. As we get closer, he's closest to but it's a painful process. Some of these issues with that. So, if the flea market village move, I want you to take note. I sent an email that they had it one time 2 years ago. They had it 2 times last year, Easter Sunday, so now they're asking for 4 weekends. So that means the building fee is being used Saturdays by the farmers market and Sundays by this and the playhouse living vendors for cities filing whatever it is. It's some bathroom and shut down the renovation. So something reduces stress from it all. Brian said he's in favor of it. He has runs today because it's like they're asking if they want because we're not sure. Maybe we can only just try 3 instead of 4 and kind of figure out before we want to show that. And did he encourage them to do the September event rather than skip it till this time? Because that's heat of the summer and the grass is we encourage you can take that yeah. Should be very surprised. think you're gonna use some way to, not all things. Land use, but we can, we can approach the, all the issue. We can, they can have a bucket of the beginning, but that part is that have a, looks like it's a bad thing, but they, not necessarily.
So like I said, it's supposed to be better than county, now it's up to the left. Foundations, and you're fucking with one way people, right?
It is unused. Yep. Okay. Then, moving down, and probably only got one this year, so that's all important, community association has the 75th anniversary. And there's some in many ways have applied use of village green on July 12th. Yeah, I think they're gonna sell the pad, they didn't say so, but have hot dogs and corn and things like that. Which I had because they're having beverages and foods that would be definitely nice. But the nation's cable on but Memphis just goes on to this building and and I think they will have to get out the version that's what I said so. Right. So they have to understand that different aspect.
Be able to set up with it, it's a second. Frequency. What?
There's a 2 hour video.
1 hour to set
Yeah,
up.
maybe 4 hours or 3 hours. We can talk to them.
Maybe we want to set up at 3. This is 3 to 8, and then,
I think that's the operation.
yeah.
You think 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. So we need to have the stuff that we assume
It's open, takes an hour.
He just gave me I lived there. Post office. Now. Read that. I don't know whether it takes them half an hour or 3 hours. People are doing it every school.
like the phone, we can reach out and make sure that there's flexibility in time and give it in.
We'll just know that they're cleaning, so, yeah.
But it is, they said, hot dogs, one fish cake, just go to the street and so I think they're saying to go away. So I just want to get said. They covered it, issues with that. Okay. Good. Sunset view we already had. One of the things I have. But Matt, and anything else to it's currently having a new he was he has something from the home school, $80,000 have in stock. He's using this, I pointed out, partly to most likely would give him just no, effect, but so he's wants the intent of the store, buildings, versus having the fields in the parking. So wherever he goes, he's so blind, fix something, don't allow to something.
happen, how many restrictions they have, or something, then,
Well,
if we're having to, how we get food, like we have been.
well, once, we wants to be able to have food security demands, we're always thinking, oh, we love it all the time.
Nope. Nothing.
Well, this is in lieu of food.
I say that we get, didn't come to these folks, like, that's 2 years, or don't get the land, it's like, I'm not, trying to,
But
what happened to be used to spend.
it said it in full.
No,
Don't use it.
pickup for, we don't, equipment, going down to them, I mean, that would make more sense to me, and buying a $50,000 man, sit there.
Well, he's saying that the van will save money because it's not as expensive as the big ones, like 60 or 70.
I know, I'm saying, go to something like that, where you have to go into the city, and we'll trip. You build out the trailer where you want it, you go to the there, go out, you can, trailer, you can try to be there, you know, you want it. That would be a fire. No, I'm just saying, I'm just laying it out, and it's in my,
Okay, let me read this, because he's not teaching. No, you're making a point, and the point that into what he's requesting. So he's looking at your tools, in the military, so you're show facts, what you should can be added, to specific to each travel. Prevention picking up cheap off for any day, available to us. More efficient than larger utility trucks, lowering operating costs. We should navigate tight through streets or urban areas. I think you have just the, and he says it's very common for elevators and emergencies to use work vans. So those are the ones that are I think a trailer would be a good option for any of those who think one
fine, it's on the van, it's not really that what it's. But take care of it, it's like, I said, the failure you can pull it up, the location of the traffic. And then I didn't want to get more material, you have to pick up truck there, you can jump around and pick up, go pick up stuff. That's what I have, I think, I can. I just, like,
Is Mercedes printer hands.
if you know, most of us, you say it's too high, people in branches and everything else, because the, I mean, and if every time we back up, they hit sides and fix the side. Or is it? So,
you want to throw moving in, there's one with those printers.
I don't have a van for I have a son, but you see, I mean, I'm telling you, it makes more sense to have a nice trail. We have the equipment out there, you know, most of the hills will go down, so you can walk in and out of it easily, and it kind of go get material. That's what I feel.
Well, good. The next thing is 3 MacBooks, laptops for the beach. These are used laptops. Chuck Johnson is retiring from the school district, so he feels uncomfortable borrowing laptops from the school like he used to for the beach. So he was retiring from the teacher. Don't have to about iPad. Well, these are restored laptops for the beach. $850 each. So we're getting them sorted and restore them. So it would be
And details out.
Yeah.
but I think this is primarily for what we're doing stickers and checking with ratings and
That they can go. Yeah. And get everything. I do this.
I think the last big thing
He said he can do 2. Crazy, he has done 3 kids. Check those pens.
Anything else on the left? Nope. And then I plan to go to the military institution part of the Landon and Stone location on the agenda just because we tabled last meeting. Time to think about it. So if there's any further discussion, I can entertain now. I keep saying we do have to enjoy this season, so I think it's probably that's your part. Like when you walk in and I'm on everybody in the world will know that that's easy to have a black belt or
It's in the door. I know, that's what I'm saying, but what is it? I think this talk to it is dedication. You make a mistake in looking at your hand, also being limited to this. If not going to be good, I think that it's. I think that the way
I disagree with you.
we don't we just we can go back.
Yeah, we don't.
I really think that I think we should not disrupt something we already exist in empire. Definitely, we want to put it someplace else. This is that, but putting it there.
And I take everybody's time for one minute. If I want to so contested, there will think. This is proclamation over here. This is from April 27th, 2018. That's this is about that's right there. Yeah. Okay. This I've phone had the military appreciation plan dedicated. So and this is to recognize extraordinary people such as Sean F. Fear Jr. and Arthur Malaire, who stepped his memory arms to each other like judges. This flag was formerly adopted province of Afghanistan, etc. Whereas this park is good to honor veterans and active duty military personnel, Six Flags, Military Ranch, U.S. Army, Navy, Marine Corps, etc. Australian Navy during the war, village responsibilities, recognizing honor many communities making it better. So it's a general military plus not a person. Yeah, this is in my mind, this is an opportunity to recognize World War II and the signed terms of the armistice 80 years ago, and conclude the park with another general stone honoring all veterans. So I just want to say that again. That's all. But I think we all agree it should be on the agenda. No, we should do it next week. Right. Okay. I think is that the last thing on the agenda? And we'll do that.